All right, Adam, what is good, bro? How are you
What's
feeling?
up, man?
How are you feeling today? One second. Take this for a second. I gotta mute the other account. I forgot to. While we get everything going, I took a week off, man. I'm feeling a little rusty.
Technical challenges are always challenges, man. I it's funny because I just this past week I actually onboarded like two big Twitter space people who will remain nameless, but teaching them how to use this interface on like how do I do StreamYard, how do I set up my road board. You know, these guys all have their road boards and they all have the StreamYards, but they're not really sure how it kind of fits together and stuff. And so you know, this stuff isn't easy, man. I mean, what did it take us? It took us like 5 tries to get this stuff right.
Literally came down to a dongle, dude. That's what the whole issue is.
I mean, I literally, that's the first thing I tell people now. It's like, make sure you get the dongle that plugs into your road board is like the Apple certified dongle. Like, don't buy the $5 one off of Amazon, because literally that held us up for a week. Like, we couldn't figure out what the problem was, and it was all a bad dongle.
Bad dongle, dude. GM Dogfather, man. How are you doing? I have to say, dude, your account is going crazy with all the statistics. Glad to see your follower account growing every day.
Hey, GM, what's good, man? Yeah, that's funny. I had this vision in the back of my mind to do one high-quality thread a week and then chill and do maybe one tweet a day. Yeah, man, since ordinals and now stamps, this is now like a bit more crazy than I thought. But yeah, I mean, that was really cool today. So we had this a dude from Messari. So he was asking whether he can use the data. And now this is like featured in this, you know, Messari is like a 200K account. You know, they have these super famous yearbook. This is really going through the roof. Really, really a pleasure being in the space with you guys. So much fun, man.
Absolutely incredible. GM Ethord, man. How you doing this morning?
Hello. Good morning. Doing well. Thanks. Excited to hear all about stamps. I know that seems to be what is in the meta right now. And I've been watching on the sidelines, but it's so fun seeing how quickly some of these things can take off.
Ethord, I'm wondering which one, because you had so many bangers. Which was the one that like really took off? Was it the stamps versus ordinals one? Was that the big one?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. Did I say Ethord? I meant Dogfather. Sorry, man.
I was like,
yeah, I think this one was really picking up some interest, right? So you were posting that, Trevor was posting about that. And then this journalist from Messari was contacting me and was like, "Can I get the raw data?" And I'm like, "Yes, sure, man."
Go on X-Chain and no. Actually, tell people how you get that raw data. What's your or if it's proprietary, you don't have to. But how do you actually how do you pull that stuff?
This is all public. It's not very complicated. So I'm just pulling that via the counterparty API. And just pulling the chart together. That's not very complicated.
So are you looking like J-Dog out in that video that he posted yesterday, looking like Mr. Robot?
I have my bong on the right. I have chill music on the left. There's some juice, and then I have this super big screen. That's exactly how it's looking like. I just need the tattoo, and then I'm more like I'm sitting in front of my tiny laptop and just, do that partially manual, partially with some crappy Python code. So it's like JDog Jr., if you want to say so.
I pinned it to the top, dude. Just when I looked at it, I was like, this guy is a Bitcoiner for sure.
Jake, you got to pull up Dogfather's tweet so we can see the actual graphic. I mean, it's amazing how humans are so visual. I mean, anybody forgets that and think that, oh, text is the way to go. It's like, okay, text is important for details, but to get an idea, there's nothing like visuals, man. And that one for, from Dogfather, it was like immediately you saw that. And of course, look, I mean, ordinals, the idea that Stamps is going to catch ordinals, I'm sure that chart will flip very, very quickly, right? But it does give this like thing like, wow, ordinals actually have this really, really fast early ramp where people understood what happened with ordinals. And immediately once they understood maybe the value proposition of Stamps, they were like, oh my God, Stamps. And so that's the one. That's Dogfather's. This is the one.
This is one right here.
So we're looking at it now, and it's the first 31 days of Bitcoin Stamps and first 31 days of Bitcoin inscriptions. And look, obviously the reasons why inscriptions were so slow at the beginning was because you had to have a full node to inscribe one of these things, right? It wasn't until, I'm sure it'll be interesting to see on this, over the next few days when Dogfather notes in there when the first like public inscription service became available. And then I'm sure it's like rocket ship, straight up. So that'll be super cool to see.
So I just saw Mike in Space, who's the creator of the protocol, just tweeted about Bitcoin Stamps 2.0. I don't know exactly what that means. Let me see here if I can find it right here. Stampede 2.0 is going to be insane. It requires addressing the biggest bottleneck to wider adoption that users currently face, and the fix is imminent. Ooh. What is he talking about, man? I'm not a technical guy. Dogfather, maybe you have a little bit better of an explanation on what the biggest bottleneck is for the Stamps protocol right now.
Honestly, I'm just reading that now as well. I mean, I think there are plenty of things that we can...
Plenty of bottlenecks. Sorry to cut you.
I mean, ordinals were going through the roof because, from day to day, there were more marketplaces, more wallets and everything. And I think for these guys, if you have an ordinals wallet, to integrate counterparty assets like Stamps, I mean, that's super easy, I think. It's also on Bitcoin, it's not that much of a thing. So I would not underestimate the Stamps once they have more appeal to wallets and the like. We will see. I mean, I'm not doing another prediction model for Stamps, but so I'm happy once you have the 1 million inscriptions that I can do something else on my pinned tweet. But I think it has so much potential because right now this is just everything. I mean, we have a bit on Emblem Vault, a few, I think, but the rest is just natively on counterparty and with dispensers. But there's so much potential once this is, integrated into wallets and marketplaces. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think that the buying and selling is the biggest hurdle right now. I think, Ordinals has actually done an amazing job with the way wallets have spun up so quickly, allowing for these marketplaces to kind of happen. But even that we saw with DGods, right? It took a while. They were doing OTC for quite a while. And people we know don't want to change infrastructure. They don't want to get wallets. Nobody wants to download a free wallet.io, right? So how's this going to work? I'm hoping it's a wallet solution. That would be amazing. Wallet solution would definitely be amazing because people have already kind of built like these marketplaces. Jake, I don't know if you want to bring one or two of these up where you can see kind of what's for sale on dispensers, right? But then it's like, now we're saying, okay, now here's the dispenser. Now go watch this how-to video so you don't rug yourself on the dispenser, right? And so it's like this long learning curve, which obviously us in the historic NFT community kind of know by now, right? Because we've spent 2 years doing this stuff. But for these newbies, it's just like a whole new ball of wax. And so providing this easy infrastructure is absolutely critical. I mean, it was my first thing I mentioned to Mike when I first talked to him. It's like you have to make these relationships with these wallets, with the marketplaces to try and make it easy for people.
Yeah, so there's this one. It's called rarestamp.xyz. I'll pull the website up here, but I'm on the tweet. I'm actually in conversation with them right now. They reached out to us, to Emblem Vault, for some integration possibilities. So they seem pretty excited. I think this is the only one, or maybe there's two.
There's two. There's the
Stamp
XYZ, stamp.xyz without the A in the middle. So STMP.xyz, who are great guys too. And I've talked to them. They had a little hiccup in the beginning, unfamiliar with how this all works. They were pinging Xchain for like all their data every single time. And so J-Dog had to ban them from Xchain for a bit until they got their stuff figured out, but they're up as well. And so like these guys, as you scroll down, you'll see like the green dot. Green dots mean that there's a dispenser available. But again, before you guys send any money to a dispenser, make sure you understand what's happening, right? So Jake's pulling up one now. This is actually a series card, right? So if you scroll down, Jake, we can see, this is a total supply of 101, right? And they're selling individuals of that 101 supply. That's why you see that low price right there.
Yeah, and then you click on it, it takes you directly to the dispenser. And so right here, I just clicked on it. This dispenser is 0.0069 Bitcoin. And it looks like there's already 13 that have been sold already out of this one.
What that means, just so everybody who's watching on YouTube, it gives an escrow quantity. That's the amount the dispenser holds. In this case, it holds 21. And the gives remaining, that's how many are left in the dispenser. So if you were to send 0.0069 in this case to that dispenser, it would give you back one of these stamps, right? But you do need to understand what stamps are, what dispensers are. You need to understand if that's empty and you send one in there. If you send Bitcoin there, that money's basically gone. If you send it in and somebody front runs you, the money's gone. So read up on dispensers, guys. Definitely before you send money to them. Or
yeah, I just pinned it to the top two if those people want to look. This is one of two. I like this one the best so far that I've looked at, although I kind of missed a little bit of last week while I was down in NFT Miami. So still catching up on it. I believe the other one is the one that's run by Rare Mike, potentially. I don't know. I used that inscription service and I got completely rugged. So,
so yeah, they have their native or their, so at stampchain.io /mint, they have their, you can make a stamp there, right? But yeah, we're looking for Ordinal's bot is going to be coming out with a stamp inscription service, stamping service coming out in the next couple of days, I think. So that'll be great because these guys do a decent job and probably going to allow multiples, all that kind of good stuff from the guys over at Ordinal's bot. So that'll be good as well.
Of course, we like to drop a little alpha on the show too. You may see little Emblem integration somewhere in the future at Ordinal's bot. Dun dun dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, you didn't hear here first, so don't tell anyone else. Dogfather, it's got his hand up. I'm ready to just blow me away with some information, man. What's going on?
Yeah, I was this morning, so European morning time, so a few hours ago, I was looking at the number of dispenser sales, so unique sales, so maybe multiples. So there were just 350 out of these 15,000 or so. Sales were 2.4 BTC. So that's nothing, right? That's really just the very beginning, just, trying out stuff. Once they're on marketplaces, you see 10 times at least that volume very, very soon.
Yeah, a stamp punk sold last night on Emblem Vault through X2Y2 for 3.75 ETH. It was one of the alien ones. So I don't know if we're about to run this back again for like the 40th time. It's just punks and Pepe's all the way down, man.
I know we've had some people have DM'd me about, private OTC sales in the sub 100 category, which obviously I think is going to be a hot category. And I know they've been like for 0.3 and 0.4 BTC. So I don't know what that is. That's a couple of ETH, is it? Or I don't even know.
Yeah, that'd be like 3 ETH about.
4 ETH, yeah.
3 or 4.
So this sub one. I mean, and for me, I'm like, I mean, I have a couple of sub 100s. I'm like, I'm not selling for 3 ETH, but you know what? Hey, I encourage people, like, there's nothing like onboarding more people, and if people get excited, they got a great deal, sub 100. And look, Mike and whoever these first guys were, they minted a lot of the hundreds or the sub 100s, and so onboarding collectors who are going to be psyched about it, there's nothing wrong with that. So I definitely encourage that.
Yeah. So someone's got to catch me up on the Doge stamps, man. I completely missed that. Like I said, I was down in Miami last week. So I don't know if it's Adam or Dogfather. What is going on with these Doge stamps? And then also, what's the website where I can view them at? I'm trying to look. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, Adam, do you want or should I?
Oh, go for it, man. You're the Doge guy.
I have it in my name, so about it. I mean, basically, that just started a few days ago. So I was just checking, Xchain, our block explorer, and I saw some stamps being, issued on Doge Party. So I was just thinking about, okay, these were all kind of Ether rocks, and that looked a bit boring. So I thought, okay, let's create a quick Telegram group and tell people how they can do that we have some more diverse artwork on there. And, invited a few friends, and so we now have 175 members within a few days, and I think 3,000 Doge Party stamps. So I think that's pretty nice after 3 days. So it's more, if I put that into the same chart, it's way higher than Bitcoin stamps and ordinals, because it was, within a few days already a few thousand. And the nice thing on Doge Party, because it's native Doge Party, it's just, doing the same thing like on Bitcoin stamps. You just put, this encoded, artwork into the description field. And the nice thing is this costs you 1 Doge, a bit more than 1 Doge for larger images. So basically 10 cents or so. Yeah. It is like done within 1 to 3 minutes normally. And you can even you can even put slightly larger files there. I think 4 or 5 kilobytes is no problem. And you can just use the desktop Doge Party wallet, which is pretty convenient compared to, this clunky web wallet account. And I think everything together makes it a very friendly entry to the world of stamps. And, it's the usual fun Doge Party community. So you'll see very familiar faces there and pretty nice memes. And I think it's a very nice community to, to start that. You don't have to wait 2 days till your stamp is done. So I think on an entry level, it's very interesting. And you don't need like $50 or so to mint something. So it just costs you 10 cents. It's fast, it's fun, it's light. Like Doge Party is in general, it's the same here.
Yeah, I think it harkens back to the origins of Doge Party, right? Which is like, we know from the HNFT community, it's like these guys were just figuring like, oh, this is a great way we can do it, cheaper, faster, and better, faster, stronger, I think, but it's like, and this is the same deal, right? It's like, and I, because I was in there too, and I even like, hey, can somebody send me some Doge so I can do this, but this Doge should be Doge is like the fun experimental stuff, right? And this is fun, and I would have no doubt like somebody's just going to get in there and be like, oh, I'm going to do all 10Ks on here, because it's like, you can do it in probably an afternoon, right? Or if you spin up a script or something, you can probably do it even faster. So yeah, much wow, man.
Adam, we faded generational wealth, man.
Always, bro.
Should have done the stamp.
It's my MO, man.
Go ahead, and guys, we had this great opportunity with Elon, using Doge as the icon, and that was the day, of course, Dogecoin was pumping like 30%, and that was the day we were, announcing that we have something like Dogecoin stamps. I mean, that was perfect timing. I mean,
that was literally crazy. I couldn't believe it happened on the same day, right? It's like never does that stuff.
I mean, that was no coincidence, obviously. So there was no website, no view, nothing. I was like, doesn't matter. I mean, let's get that out. Let's have some fun, and we can watch later how that's looking like. But let's just issue some. It costs you one Doge. I mean, who cares?
Exactly.
Even if it's not working, let's just do that. And everyone was jumping in and creating cool pixel art, and now we can view it. So JDog was integrating that into the viewer, which is at let me check. Tokenstamps.io, and then you have to select Doge Party, and then you can see all these stamps. And there will be a bit more development that you can see also that on dogeparty.exchange.io. And I think once there are enough assets, people also put them on Emblem Vault and so on and so on.
Yeah, so I just opened up token stamps, and I was showing a bunch of the Doge stamps. Counterparty stamps just passed 20,000, I think within the last few minutes. So 20,000 counterparty stamps, and then Doge Party stamps were at 3647. So we're zooming, guys. We're having a blast stamping away. I don't think it'll flip inscriptions at any point in time, but kind of just fun.
Who knows? Doge could, but
you know what I was thinking when I was at the airport. I was saying that I think ordinals are a good fit for Bitcoin because it's used, right? There's a lot more space, or a lot more like
functionality and stuff.
Functionality. Also the infrastructure is it's scaling, right? We went through the trouble of onboarding the Litecoin ordinals, and I think those teams realized there is no infrastructure for anything. And I think they've kind of moved on from it, it seems like, or there's a handful of devs working on that.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with like the Litecoin guys. It's like literally they're like 5 guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just Bitcoin is much more ready because we had the Stacks guys. We had like these teams of devs who were like kind of ready, trying to do other stuff. And then they saw ordinals and they were like, oh, pivot, And so all these wallets and stuff were kind of primed, ready with devs, at their keyboards, and could just shift. And yeah, that's what I mean, dude, that's free market capitalism. That's what Bitcoin's all about.
I would hope we come full circle and everyone just starts forking Counterparty again, so that they could do stamp protocols on like Litecoin and Vertcoin and all these like random POW shit coins that happened over the last few years. How funny would that be?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is like the greatest thing to ever happen to Counterparty. Like the real discussions for all our Counterparty friends and people who've been screaming, these are Bitcoin NFTs for the last however many years. Like this is the first time the conversations actually happened where like real Bitcoiners are learning about Counterparty for the first time. I can't tell you how many spaces I've been on where Bitcoiners are like, oh, really? That's what it is? They literally just thought it was like, they thought it was an L2 or like a shitcoin, or they didn't know. They didn't know that, oh, it's actually basically the same thing that Ordinals is doing in a different way. It's doing the same thing. And that's awesome because it's awesome for Counterparty. It's definitely awesome for all our historical NFT friends for getting adoption of all the Pepes and Spells of Genesis and everything that was put on Counterparty, because there's just an awareness building that, oh, actually, these are legit Bitcoin NFTs.
I hope somebody forks it and puts it on the Zcash so I could get some ZK, some zero knowledge stamps, dude. So whoever's out there, man, might be some business opportunities. Stamps all the way down, right? I think stamps are probably a better fit for some of the like lower end or maybe dying proof of work chains.
No, dude. I think stamps. I mean, I know we're saying it's unprunable and it's got the series nature of it, which is awesome, obviously. But dude, I think it's like the PFP place to live, like, because these are like the hardcore. It's pixel art. Like this is the PFP chain, man. Like this is the spot for pixel artists and PFPs, man. I think it's ideally suited for that sort of use case. So we'll see how it goes with stamps, but it's fun to be along for the ride. That's for darn sure.
Hey Adam, when you're in these spaces and talking with these Bitcoiners that never heard of Counterparty and XCP before, and they're learning, are they generally accepting of it, or are they in their maxi ways and just fighting it?
No. They are surprisingly open to it. And the reason why is because they've already accepted ordinals. And so these are not the hardcore Bitcoin maxis who aren't interested in ordinals or PFPs or anything, right? These aren't them. These are ones who were accepting of ordinals, like ordinals. And once they're given this argument that Counterparty is basically another protocol just like ordinals is, they have to accept it because they've already accepted ordinals. They might not like, they might not like stamps because it clogs the network or, that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, they are finally coming around to, oh, wow, Counterparty is actually really cool. And that's been amazing. And all props to like Joe Looney and these guys for jumping in spaces and actually diving into like the details of it, and getting into like the nitty gritty. And I've been in some private chats where they really go deep into the nitty gritty, and that's been amazing to watch because, yeah, Bitcoiners are like eyes open finally to what Counterparty is.
Hurrah!
Yeah.
Hoorah. So moving on to the next segment, I did want to recap a little bit about my NFT Miami trip, and then we'll be heading out to NFT NYC. We'll be missing Adam. I don't think Adam's going to make it. Is anybody else making it out there? Show your hands. Happy to meet up. NFT Miami, I have to say, dude, at least 1 and 2 people that I talked with were familiar with Emblem Vault. It was super cool, as it was not like that before. They're like, oh, I know. Got a lot of like legends. You guys are legends. I'm like, oh, there's only a few of us doing this. We're ultra legends. NFT Miami, dude, down bad. down bad, dude. There's maybe 2,000 people there. When we went last year, Adam, there's probably 10,000 people. They didn't even use that main stage room. It was just only.
It was all the off stage where we were last time.
And they put 2 stages in there, and there was like one alley of like sponsored tents. It was, they were down bad.
Ouch. So no Grant Cardone this time. No, who else was the big
one? The big speakers there was Pomp, and I went to Pomp. Medved talked. Well, I went to Pomps, and there was maybe 100 or 200 people at that stage. It was, dude. It was. There was like no one there.
Pomps down bad, man.
Down bad, dude. Yeah, I mean, I know some of the organizers, so I talked with them. And they just said, yeah, they're having issues getting traction this year, but it doesn't seem like NFT NYC is having that issue at all, because there's 4,000 events that I'm being invited to.
Well, I think it's a bigger, NFT NYC is the one, right? So if they can't attract, the Bored Ape crowd and the punk crowd and, the main players, then it's all over. And so it's not over. And so they're going to be there. And I know you've got a busy few days ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. There's Pepe parties. There's a Scarce City. I'm going to the Hyro office for some. There's all kinds of weird parties happening. Finally, some parties that aren't just PFP based, which is nice, man, because I don't got any of those. So I'm token gated out. I'm down bad on those historically. But speaking of Pepe's, man, we're into week 2 of testing the curated collection. I have it pulled up here. 62 unique items, 71 total items, and we had actually a lot more individuals reach out to be the early vaulters. And if you are still interested in being an early vaulter, it's not too late. You'll be the first to test out new features, not just curated collections, but all Emblem Vault new features when we need people to test into it. Haven't had any issues so far, so appreciate everyone for remaining patient. This page looks clean. We are going to make some edits. I've been getting a bunch of feedback. It's a little bit difficult when everybody is a cook in the kitchen when it comes to Pepe's, right? you got the rare scientists, you got the collectors, you got the artists. It's you try to satisfy everybody.
Get it.
It's a little bit tough at times, but we opened it up to rare Pepe's and to Spells of Genesis, and Spells of Genesis not getting nearly as much love as it is for rare Pepe's. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just some people aren't really familiar with it as much. But
well, it's not nearly as deep a community, right? It's definitely
yeah. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, actually, not too bad so far. If this is the right, I think this is the right one. 46. So it has caught up over time. This is actually looking pretty good. I did notice we were having some issues with Spells Genesis because of how the the data for some of these cards were JPEGs and not JSONs, so there had to be some sort of like tweaking in the background. But yeah, it looks like they have caught up a little bit.
There's also like a weird cropping going on, it looks like, on the spells art.
Weird clapping?
Cropping.
Cropping. Yeah, I don't know. It's we're figuring out though. People love the Spells of Genesis. They are the OGs. I think that these curated collections, man, are just going to give a lot of exposure. Some people who reach out to us, I tell them that we are vaulting for Rare Pepe and Spells of Genesis, and a lot of them are like, "What is Spells of Genesis?"
I'm telling you, man. It's like we are so, Jesus, man, we are so early. It's ridiculous. It is. It really is. Like nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about NFTs still. We're in such a silo and such a bubble on Twitter that I think it's just, we constantly have to remind ourselves. Like nobody knows. Like I'm telling you, I've onboarded people into like counterparty and counterparty NFTs who are like hardcore, have been in crypto for 5 years and don't know what it is. Don't know how dispensers work, have no clue what this stuff is. And this is somebody, these are people relatively informed, and hardcore in the crypto space. So if they don't know, the rest of the world has zero clue. It's like zero, right? So keep your head up, guys. And don't worry that there were only 2,000 people at NFT Miami event. Don't worry.
Hold on, let me. We got some hands-on stages. Let me just cover the rest of these updates, and then we'll continue the discussion. So next stages for Curated specifically is this migration portal. There's a reason why there's only 71 and 46 vaulted, is because most people are like, hey, I own 100 legacy vaults with individual Pepes. I'm not going to unvault these and then vault them again to pay double the transaction fees because it's not cheap. So they're waiting for this migration portal, which is essentially the equivalent of like wrapping something. If you're in the historical community, you're very familiar with wrapping. I've gone this with Mooncats and Curio cards and pretty much anything pre-ERC 721. So it's going to be a similar experience. There are some like technical obstacles we have to overcome. One of them being that you can't migrate a multi-collateral vault. The reason why, because we're going to Curated where all the vaults are certified to be 1-to-1, or at least whatever the asset is inside. I mean, if you have 4 of something in there, you're going to have to like choose one to be the vault. So it doesn't really make sense from a collector standpoint. I'm sure some people will probably still end up doing it because they're lazy or just have no idea.
Yeah.
But we're going to roll that out. So you're going to have to do them individually one by one. And then after that, we will roll out the bulk migration tool, which is a little bit more complicated to do. But we do have to roll these out in stages. I was talking with somebody in the Discord yesterday about this. They're asking like, why is this taking so long? When can I just have my Pepes? When can I have the bulk minting tool and all these different things? But I told them, whoever it is, said, this has never been done before. We're literally in uncharted territories, and we need to be very careful because
we're trying not to lose Nakamoto's here, man.
Yeah. I would feel horrible if somebody lost, a Nakamoto card because of something where it gets stuck in basically the ether because of whatever the process is. So we are doing this with security in mind, and we will take the extra few weeks to get past that if that's to ensure that no assets will be lost. So with the migration tool will come in stages, and then eventually we'll either move into the bulk minting tool, right, where you can create 30 Nakamoto vaults within one click, and then you go to your free wallet, you copy all those addresses, and then you go paste in free wallet, and you can do it all in like 3 transactions or whatever, or 3 clicks, right? That's like the ultimate kind of step. But going in stages, and so once we get that done, then we can roll the curated collections out to anything, to ordinals, to individual artists, to Doge Party, to Namecoin, to pretty much everything. Namecoin's probably going to be a lot more difficult because always has issues. But yeah, man, I'm excited. So that's kind of like the update. We do have a lot of other things we are working on as well in the background that you guys will probably see. Shannon's an absolute animal in the dev studio.
Yeah, one quick update too. I know people have been pinging me about when the stamps are going to be supported. Hopefully by end of day today, the general stamps will be supported, right? So stamp number, that sort of thing. And we are working with like the Stamp Punks to, support them as well. And we'll definitely let you know. I would expect in the next couple days that'll be ready as well. So you'll be able to buy them safely on OpenSea as well.
Yeah. We just got an update of everything that the dev team's been working on, and updated. It's been a lot. And so they said that they're actually going to work on that support today. I know there's a lot of things that you have to overcome. So very, very exciting news there, from the Emblem Vault standpoint. And where we go from here, the world is our oyster. I know Ethord had your hand up first, and you guys are patiently waiting, and then I'll call on Amina next. And if anybody else would like to come on stage and join the conversation, we're down a few people today, more than open for the next hour to continue this discussion with anybody else who has something on their mind. But Ethord, what's going on?
Oh yeah, I was just going back to what Adam was saying about how we're this little subgroup of a very tiny subgroup called NFT world. And yeah, I mean, the thing to remember sometimes too, right? You can go on the street and talk about NFTs and nobody, they know what it means, but so many people haven't really gotten into it yet. But once you get into the community, it's still fascinating how many don't do the work on the history and understand what some of these things that came before it are, because so many people were brought into NFT space of, hey, all I want to do is find the next big thing before other people do and flip it and make more money. And, that's fine for those groups of people. But that's why you have so many people that are in the space that don't know what spells of Genesis are, or haven't interacted with Counterparty, understand how dispensers work and all of that. And it's hard because, these algorithms feed us the people that we interact with. And it's so easy to forget sometimes that we are such a small group. But, I think we have our, we have our Bible of what we think is going to add and keep value and retain value in the future. And I don't think any of us have stopped. We've only just kept moving forward with it.
Keep pushing. We love the history, man. I heard on a Spaces yesterday that On-Chain Monkeys is a historic ETH collection. It's one of the ordinal collections because they're working with their Bugatti stuff, which we could discuss in a little bit. But I did want to give Amina a chance to speak. I know she had her hand up.
Oh, hi, Jake. I was just talking to Sol about this, and I'm sort of confused. Like, what is a practical purpose for a stamp? Like, what would somebody in the real world, apart from this, like, what would you call us, like a bubble? Apart from this bubble, why would anybody stamp anything?
If you're speaking outside of the nerd bubble, I don't think there is a use case currently.
Well, I could give you plenty of use cases. No, I could give you use cases. Have you ever, when you were growing up as a kid, did you ever, when there was some wet concrete, did you ever write your name in the wet concrete?
Lol. Yes.
Yeah, you did, right? Doing that, why do humans do that? We do that because it creates a sense of permanence in our lives. And stamps are the best way possible that humans know right now to create something that is in theory permanent, right? Bitcoin may go away and it goes away. But right now, at least for digital items, this is the best way on earth to store something digitally forever. And so I think right there, it just touches something that every single human on earth feels. That's the best use case for stamps right now.
Okay, but that's not a use case. That's that's abstract, right? So let's say somebody is stateless, like somebody doesn't have a citizenship.
Wait. That is a use case. Just because it's not a use case that you necessarily want doesn't make it a use case that isn't real. It's a real use case right now. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. Anything more than an image on the blockchain stored forever. It doesn't have to be more than that.
So much more, right? Like that's
could be absolutely, but it doesn't have to be more. It can be just that.
Oh, I like that. That's a good answer.
All right.
I feel like I was listening to a sermon right now. Adam giving the gospel. Like, why permanence is
I mean, look, man, when you dive deep on yourself and you have a chance to like dive into, you know, what is life about, you start touching against these things. And the sense of permanence is really, really important to people, really. And most of us do it through our families and the connections we make in life. Like nothing's going to replace that. But also maybe even being able to put an image that I made on a blockchain, which I think is going to live forever. That has meaning to people.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at the different things that are being stamped, even on Dogecoin and on Bitcoin. Some people are stamping just the same image. For example, I know Punisher owns the fuck yeah stick figure guy. You know, I'm talking the blurry one.
Yeah, sure.
The 2012 name coin. I saw he stamped that on Bitcoin and on Dogecoin. And for him, I know he likes that because that's like some sort of, there's something there for him owning it that he said he's never going to sell it. And that's very meaningful to him. And I don't think he's going to sell those stamped ones either. That's just something of taking something historic in his mind and feeling some sort of relevance or, you know, something internal, as Adam was saying. And so that's just like one example of like many, because stamps right now really aren't selling, right? I think Dogfather said it was less than 30 or 300 or something that have sold. So most people are doing it for something that has probably not been discussed publicly for different
people.
Well,
let's be clear. Most of like the punks and stuff, people are stamping them because they think they might be able to make money on it, right? Most people are doing it because they think they can flip it. But that doesn't take away the other potentials of it.
The early ones. Yeah, usually the first like 500 or 1,000 before the punks. That's where you get the cool experimenter, the cool artwork. I have some very horrible artwork that's down in the early stamps, you know, Team Blurry stamps, because I couldn't figure it out. So we're going to have to run with it. Rob had his hand up first, and then we'll call on Harvey after.
Okay, just a quick hit and run comment because I'm in the middle of stuff. But as far as use cases, way back in 2014, people were using XCP assets as like a token controlled like forums and stuff where you could only get into a forum if you owned a specific XCP asset. So just an example of something you could do with the stamp, since it is on, well, I don't know if I should say XCP because people are.
Let's just say it's on Bitcoin. It's on Bitcoin. We don't mention XCP here. Yeah.
but in theory, there's probably all kinds of stuff that, you know, again, it just drives me crazy when people are so excited about people doing the same kind of stuff, you know, with ETH tokens or whatever. And like, this was done in 2014. So on using counterparty technology on Bitcoin. So that's it for my comment.
Absolutely.
Right. It's kind of like that comment where it's like, look, if you think somebody is doing something first, look at the Pepe community. I think if you go even farther back and you look at like the things like TokenGate and stuff, if you think you've done it first, Adam Levine's probably tried it. That fool's been up and down the alley with everything. And I know Rob was part of that journey as well. Harvey, how's it going, man?
Hey there. Good. Thanks for having me. What I was going to say was about the use cases. Like, there's two things that come to mind. The first is like Pompeii was this city that, I don't know, 500 years ago, 1,000, I don't remember my history, but like there was a volcano. And so it like froze everything in the town. And now you have like the graffiti from the culture of Pompeii. And what's really cool about it, one thing is just how much you can see, like, there's just like humans like us. And they write like a bunch of fart jokes and all that, but you didn't capture like from like 1,000 years ago, just their graffiti and their culture. So that in and of itself, I think, is important. But then secondly, referring to culture, like art is like usually one of the first things to go when a totalitarian regime comes along. And like they start censoring it, like the Nazis did it in World War II. And this, I think, is incredible because not only can you put images that are pixels, you can put SVGs, and with SVGs, you can put text. And text is incredibly lightweight in its unoutlined form. So people can write like entire manifestos to be like imagine if you had stuff from like 1943 saying, "Hi, from Germany, 1943, I'm a German citizen, most of my town doesn't agree with what's going on, blah, blah, blah," or whatever. But you don't hear that because you just hear like what the government was saying. But this gives like an outlet for anyone to say anything permissionlessly, like uncensorable. You can make any kind of like stencil art with SVG that makes fun of like the ruling regime or whatever. Any culture anywhere on earth can like speak out like a beacon with their art. And I just wanted to say, I think that like it just builds on the permissionlessness of money. It's the permissionless, God, that's hard to say. Permissionlessness of art and culture and like speech. It adds to that, and I think that, and it's unprunable. So it's really, that is really cool and inspiring to me.
Unprunable.
That's awesome, man.
It's funny. So I watched a movie last night, the new Tetris movie on Apple TV, and they talked about that actually. That in that communist country, the first things to go was art. So that was kind of a cool parallel.
Hey, before we move off Harvey, because he's done some of the cleanest looking stamps, these amazing ones, and I'm wondering if you could give us a quick, 1 minute rundown on how you do that, and do they cost a fortune to put on? Because they look like, I mean, I'm doing pixels 24 by 24. It's blocky and it looks like punks, right? And you've done this, looks like hand-drawn stuff. How were you able to do that? And did it cost a fortune?
Yeah. TLDR is not my strong suit, fair warning, but I'll do my best. Okay, so I have a background in graphic design, so I have a little bit of an edge there because I used Illustrator for years and years. So I can like hand draw Doge pretty clean and fast. But that said, I've been telling people that have asked in DMs, like, yeah, SVG can be worked with by non-technical people, especially because almost everyone I know has ChatGPT. And SVG file is actually like a kind of like an HTML file for describing vector art, and it can be made really lightweight, especially like basic geometric art. So you can ask it basically is whatever you can think, and then if you're willing to work with it and fine tune it, even without Illustrator, you can like ask it to say like, make me a row of 12 by 12 perfect circles, only using that circle once, like drawing it once. And then SVG data can be like just coded to say, instead of drawing all the math to draw that circle once, it can draw it like, 12 times. It can draw it once and then say, and give that a label, and then just say, draw label A1 here, then draw here, here, here. So you can make really small, get it down. And it definitely, some of the stuff I made cost a fortune on Bitcoin because I was pushing it to 7 kilobytes with like crazy.
Wait, tell us what the 7 kilobyte one costs. Give us a rough estimate.
We
won't tell the wife, we promise.
One. Oh, she knows.
Oh.
She's been my she's amazing because we met in art school actually. So she's like I've been bouncing ideas. She's like been really stoked on this whole process because normally NFTs is just all weird techie shit, but me creating stuff, she's like, oh, and I've been asking her like, what do you think of this? You like that? And it's been really actually fun here to be creating and incorporating and bringing her into the fold more than normal.
But wait, did one of these ones cost?
0.021 for my biggest vaporwave one at 7.1 kilobytes. But that 0.021 Bitcoin. But on Doge, like 6 kilobytes is 10 cents. It's insane. I don't know why like Doge doesn't have 100,000 prints already. You can put like anything you want for 10 cents on Doge. So
just to do the rough math for you guys, that's about $600. He was putting it.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I recouped 400 already on a dispenser, like selling some because people liked it. So sure. I mean, to me, it was worth it.
Like, look, man, as I said, they stand out in the sea of pixels. They look like hand-drawn, beautiful Pepes. So congrats on those, man.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, yeah, anyone can DM me on Twitter or Telegram. My stuff's open if they want more info. I won't give a whole long sermon here. But thanks, Adam, for the question.
Hey, Dogfather, you've been holding your hand up very patiently. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Adam was saying in terms of the use case. So, I mean, most people looking now at the current projects, they don't see what we have seen in the past when we were looking at some failed projects or some early projects where the artwork is basically lost. It was pointing to some website or server that is not active anymore, and the artwork is lost. If you're not happy and lucky finding it on the Wayback Machine, it's gone. and maybe it was perfect, it was great, it was something meaningful. It's gone. That's super unlike the if you put it on a stamp or an inscription on Bitcoin, and even Dogecoin is relatively, I think, established. It's the second largest proof of work, and it's Elon pumping and whatnot. So that's way more safe than putting it on some random server or even IPFS. If nobody is looking at that for a while, this is also gone, because storing stuff is costing money, and if it's not on these servers anymore, it's also gone. I have some IPFS hashes that I cannot find anymore from some old projects. They're also gone.
Yeah. I want to welcome Oblivion to the stage and give him an opportunity to say something. Then we're gonna move on to the next segment. How's it going?
It's going good. This was just more of a statement, as I'm new to a lot of stuff with BTC other than rare Pepes, but from dabbling with stamps and stuff and inscribing, one thing I really enjoy about stamps is that it seems like a much more affordable and obtainable option for a lot of people to do stuff on BTC, opposed to inscribing things, which takes hundreds of dollars, possibly thousands at times. That's all I wanted to say.
Sure. I guess when it gets into like the series, definitely, right? I mean, the series is like with Harvey is doing series for his pieces, so it's not just so he can kind of recoup. He can do it for $600, but then it can be, he could have a series of 30 of those, right? So, stamps that use case of being able to do series is valid. I know people have already been started to do like, I'm going to make stamp money, and here's $1 billion, and all these sort of these crazy things, which we've seen also with early counterparty assets as well. So part of it is this idea that it can be fun and you can play around with it, and that's part of the great stuff about it, is just this experimentation.
Yeah, I was talking with Adam yesterday because I had him inscribe some stuff for me earlier, stamp some things earlier, and asked him to go lock the value up. And then afterwards, I was like, this could have been the Pepe cash with stamps. Fuck.
Now they're exclusive one-of-ones, my man.
Yeah. So whoever creates the Pepe cache of stamps, that'll be kind of interesting, or of Doge stamps, right? Cool opportunities. We all kind of mimic the early movers of the space. So always look to rare Pepes for some signs. What's up, Dogfather?
Yeah, the fun part is that the Bitcoin stamp community is not that experimental. They just want to do one-on-ones. So 14,743 or so are just one-on-ones, and just like a handful are, these ERC 1155 equivalents, so less than 1,000. So people really just do one-on-ones, many punks and stuff like that. It's a bit more diverse on Dogecoin stamps, because we don't have a rigid kind of set of rules over there. People do named assets, sub tokens, and it's a bit more experimental over there. I just can highly recommend trying it out for the 10 cents you have to spend. On Bitcoin stamps, they do it like numerical assets, 99%, and then one-on-ones. So not too much of experimenting.
Yeah, the social reinforcement that happens within the Bitcoin community and the counterparty community is crazy. That like social contract that everyone has with each other, it's wild. When we went early into the stamps Telegram, I think Adam and I were like one of the first like 30 or something. Everyone was in discussion of like what the rules were, and then within like an hour or two, everyone just kind of agreed on what was going to happen.
Yep, it is amazing to see how when it does work well. And I think it's like you could have maybe it's really hard, right? It's like herding cats. Like it's really hard to come to any sort of social consensus once you have too many people. But the early days with one, basically leader, and a couple of kind of like generals, I guess you'd say, they were able to hash it out pretty quickly on what it was going to mean, and then sticking to it as people, bombard you with what they want it to mean. I think Mike did a pretty good job of that.
Too many mailmen in the post office. That's a metaphor we're going to use here. eThord, man, my favorite segment every single show, where we get to dive into the world of collecting in the real world, and then how it pertains to I guess the Bitcoin community and the historical NFT community, very just full of collectors, not as many flippers. Get the F out. Let's go.
Thank you, sir. Yes, this is Hoarder's Corner, a weekly segment that explores the world of physical collecting. And this week we're going a little off. Some high sales. I always like to throw in some high sales with the fun cheap ones. And yeah, we're doing antique pistols. I don't know if anyone on stage has held any antique pistols or at least shot some guns, but I don't know. I mean, has anyone a gun enthusiast here?
I come in peace.
I'm more of a pellet gun myself, but I support the rights of other people to shoot guns. So I'm excited to hear about this, because there's got to be, I mean, just a rich. Gun collectors are, hardcore. So I'm sure there's a fierce battles for the high end old guns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if someone wants to hold guns, especially in America, right, Second Amendment and all that, good for them. But what I really like about antique pistols, right, it's more about the craft and artmanship and really kind of the history of who had the gun or how it was used, rather than obviously for violence, because these things for the most part are not very practical to use.
I mean, I'm just going to interject for a second. I heard this thing with these guys who used to have, used to be able to have duels, right? And I can't remember, it was like a US president, like I'm going to say Andrew Jackson, but it's not him. But one of these guys had been in like 5 duels in his life, and like nobody died in these duels. And it's like, because the guns were like so inaccurate and so weak, like if you hit any part of the body, it was like a home run win, And so like nobody died. They were so inaccurate. But anyway, sorry to cut you off, man.
No, that's absolutely true. If anyone, and I'll go back to this, but if anyone's seen Hamilton the musical, it's fantastic, and there is a duel in there, and yeah, I mean, just in general, they were really big back in the day, which is crazy to think that anyone would do that today with actual guns and not something that's more of like hand slapping contests. But okay, so let's go into the origins and history of guns, or of pistols, I should say. And the predecessor of the pistol were called hand cannons, and these were literally small cannons. If anyone's watched some of those videos on Reddit on like what could go wrong subreddit or something, where they're basically lighting a bottle rocket and tripping, and it's just kind of shooting everywhere. That's basically what hand cannons were. You'd ignite them, they'd have a wick, and it wasn't the most accurate and best way to have a weapon, but they were portable. So in the early 16th century, that's when things started to change. The wheel lock mechanism was invented, which paved the way for self-igniting firearms. So you no longer needed to light a wick, and you could conceal it a lot easier. But the thing about the wheel lock mechanism, and I did provide a link, I'm not sure if we're seeing it, but they're very complicated how they work. But it's basically there's a spinning wheel that would spin really fast and ignite the pyrite, which is actually fool's gold, which is pretty cool that they'd use pyrite to create sparks before flint. But yeah, they were expensive to produce, had a lot of moving parts in them. So only the wealthy owned them, which is kind of nice, because it means most spinning wheel guns are highly stylized and they look really cool. And obviously collectors love that. So that was kind of the first iteration. And then in the 17th century, the flintlock pistol was introduced. And this is kind of what you see in all the 1800s, or I should say 1700s, Revolutionary War and all that kind of stuff, where you have a hammer that's using flint, of course, where it gets the name. And it strikes to launch a projectile, making it, more reliable and easier to produce. So we had a whole.
There, you still had to like load the barrel from the front, right, and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So it took about I don't know, I looked it up, 30 to 45 seconds to reload both of these guns, right? If whether it was a wheel lock or a flintlock, you had to do the same sort of thing. You know, every time you fired it, you'd have to reload the gunpowder and then put in your lead ball, which is, you know, your projectile. And then it obviously was a slow sort of thing. A lot of people had 2 of these flintlock guns as a set, so you could at least fire 2 shots at once. But then the big turning point in pistols came with Samuel Colt's invention of the revolver in 1836. So that's when we get the Wild West guns and all the cool stuff that, you know, people to this day pretty much love and you know, collect and use. And so, yeah, the revolver could hold 5 bullets that you could shoot before needing to reload. And interestingly enough, before we even get into the notable sales, the first, you know, a lot of the times when we talk about these collections, the first ones are sought after, but they don't sell for a lot just because they mass produce them like crazy. But the Colt Patterson revolvers, it's estimated that only around maybe 2,500 guns were manufactured from 1836 to 1842. So pretty recently, one of these that was in perfect condition sold for $977,000, which for Jake here,
yes,
520 ETH, just for a Samuel Colt Patterson.
That's crazy. That's like 5 Nakamotos. Who would pay that much?
You're telling me I got to trade a golden ape for this?
Yeah. I mean, what's amazing to me, 400 years to get to the Colt revolver. That's incredible. From the first hand cannons to a Colt revolver, took 4 centuries. That's amazing.
Right. And then obviously at that point, I mean, pistols haven't even changed too much since then. But as far as collecting goes and what drives value, I mean, it's all about who owned it, right? We've talked about this in the past. And they haven't, like Pez, I think, was one where one of the most expensive ones were owned by JFK. But most of the time, who owns it hasn't been that big of a thing. But here it is, right? So was it a king? Was it a president? Was it an emperor? Was it used to kill a famous person? Hint, hint. So yeah, those are the key driving factors. But also, like I said, especially with those wheel locks, you know, what types of materials were they made out of? So many were made out of gold and had just like all sorts of artisan craftsmanship. And that all plays a factor too.
Beautiful. I want to note Nifty Universe on YouTube says antique firearms are on a whole nother level. Pieces from 1899 and earlier are outside of the federal jurisdiction. Bullish on the same for NFT antiques from 2019 and earlier.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Great comment. Love it. All right, so let's go into the sales. I got 3 to show off, and if you want to go to that link, we can see the images of them. It's the
I've been following along on YouTube, by the way.
Awesome, cool. So yeah, we got the George Washington saddle pistol. So this sold in 2002 for $1.98 million. Now that was 2002, so let's give it a little adjusted for inflation here, and that's $3.3 million today, or 1,774 ETH.
Ooh, zombie punk level. Let's go.
Yeah, that's
maybe an alien.
Alien, yeah, I think that's alien levels, and that was heyday alien levels, right? But I guess they don't sell too often, so who knows? So yeah, this set of saddle pistols were given to Washington by Lafayette. Again, Hamilton the musical. Lafayette was one of the main characters. He was instrumental in us beating the British out, and yeah, it was used throughout the Revolutionary War. These pistols are a work of art. They had gold. They had detailed Rococo style carvings, which I had to look up what the heck Rococo style is. Gorgeous. Yeah, it looks like if you ever go to those museums, all the like 1700 paintings, that's a lot of those are considered Rococo style. But yeah, so if you want to check these pistols out, they're actually now housed at the Fort Liniger Museum just outside Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I want to read off this caption here. It says, during the American Revolution, General George Washington was gifted 2 flintlock pistols from Marquis de Lafayette. Washington is believed to have carried the pistols at Valley Forge, Monmouth, and the Battle of Yorktown, as well as the Whiskey Rebellion during his presidency. So there's some
They were
stories.
later inherited by Andrew Jackson during his presidential campaign. Amazing.
Yes, shout out to Andrew J. We were talking about him earlier, right?
Bro, I say free on those. How do you buy that? That's like dirt cheap. Are you kidding me? Free. Amazing.
Free.
So
Where's the sales bot so I could comment on it?
The thing I want to note is that's 2 pistols. So yeah, that's 3.3 million today after inflation, but that's for 2. So this next one sold for less, but it's 1 gun, and this is called the Danish Sea Captain civilian Colt Walker revolver, and this sold for 1.8 million in 2018, April of 2018. So that's 980 ETH. But as just a fun little thing, because ETH was around in April of 2018, and it was about approximately $400 per. So that would be 4,500 ETH in April 2018, just as a little sidebar. But yeah, so this, I really like this story, so I threw it in here. There's only 100 of these ever made. And the sale got its name, they call it the Danish Sea Captain civilian Colt Walker revolver, because it was first purchased by a Danish sea captain named Neil Hansen in the 1847 visit to New York City. Then, 100 years later, during Nazi occupation of Denmark, the gun was buried in a garden to avoid being discovered by German troops. So I just picture in my mind a Pulp Fiction-esque story, like, this revolver, I hid this in a couple of 2 years while the Nazis came. And yeah, so that is a pretty significant sale right there. It was the most expensive sale at the time in April 2018. But that leads us to the Grail, which is the Pat Garrett's Colt Single Action Army Revolver. Now, this thing sold for $6 million in 2021. That's 3,200 ETH. Now, Pat Garrett, I guess, was some sort of sheriff, and he was said to have taken the gun off of another notorious outlaw, Billy Wilson, and carried it as his own, only to then use it to shoot and kill infamous outlaw Billy the Kid on January 14th, 1881. So yeah, this is the most expensive firearm to ever be sold in auction. Interestingly enough, though, this revolver, unlike all the others that we've talked about, is not engraved. It's not made of any cool, valuable materials, but it is in good condition. So yeah, this is just straight out. This is the gun that killed Billy the Kid, and someone wanted it for $6 million.
Interesting.
And there we have it.
Wow. Well, it's interesting how high these sales are. I know gun fanatics are absolutely insane. We'll probably pay a lot higher for some other ones, but right, guns are shrouded in violence. So it seems like the value is either who it kills or who had held it at the time. I was looking at this other top 10 sales that you had sent me to, most expensive historic guns sold at auction. I saw number 10 or number 9 was Hitler's golden Walther PP gun that sold for $114,000, which he received as a gift on his 50th birthday. So there's a bunch of random milestones in here, right? Even numbers, Hitler's 50th birthday is a gift. So it's traded hands through multiple people.
But then you see Wyatt Earp, Jesse James, right? It's like, and I think we've talked about this a bunch, like, as it relates to NFTs, who's held these NFTs, right? I think we haven't even begun that process. And we're not valuing that at all right now. It literally has no value right now. If I have one that was held by Shaquille O'Neal, nobody cares, right? But will that be something people care about in the future? Like, that's very possible, because obviously we see it in this example.
Yeah, I think so too. I was very surprised. That was one thing I was looking for early in the historical NFT days. But I don't know. One of the reasons why I bought Mr. Moo was because Ponderware named it and Ponderware held it. So I thought that would be some sort of value. But as of now, no one really cares.
As of now, not yet. But the thing is, it's one of the great features of NFTs, right? You can actually see where it's been. And so I think, I just don't think it's something that's so clearly obvious, yet we're in such early days that it's not yet a thing yet. Give it 50 years, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethord, any final comments on this?
I was just gonna say no one wanted to spend $6 million on the gun that killed Billy the Kid right after Billy the Kid died, right? So maybe
yeah, exactly right.
maybe our grandkids will appreciate Mr. Moo for being held by Ponder.
If I had to speculate a gun that would sell for more, the only one that I could think of off the top of my mind was the gun that killed JFK. It was the only thing that
I was saying that one, or maybe like the John Lennon one or something like that.
Like the superstar, since we kind of are in like this like populous state, the like popularity celebrity deaths.
Yep.
Could be something, maybe some rappers or something in the future. The JFK one would be interesting. but speaking
the one that killed Tupac. Oh no.
but honestly, speaking of, you know, like historical people and names in Mr. Moo, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Pondaware is out with a new project, and I wanted to cover this while Ethord's still here with us. They announced they are not the Nakamigo team, so
bummer, but we called that one, man. It was pulled off way too well. Sorry to my Pondaware friends, but Nakamigos was way too good. You know, there's no way it could have been Pondaware.
So they said they'd like to introduce us to Code Lawless. This one is for the tinkers and collectors. They're minting a collection of 8,192 called the Lawless. The Lawless represents you and I, the Web3 locals, builders, and curious. They have no choice but to make their own rules. They live in the city of Redacted, and they will be minting in early May. I know Ethord has a really close relationship with the Ponderware team. Tell us a little bit from your perspective, like what is going on here without releasing too much information, I guess, or what you can.
Yeah, sure. And I do have to hop off in about 10 minutes, but that's plenty of time. I don't know exactly what I can say, and I haven't been told a ton of things. I know that kind of what I said last time, they're building, they're excited. They haven't been this excited about something in a long time. This is what they love to do. They know they're not the best at the post-marketing part of things, but if they're having fun and they're doing stuff, I mean, in the past, they've just been too early. Maybe they're too early again. Maybe in the future, all of that is respected the same way that, you know, punks were too early too when they came out. And now, obviously, they're the number one NFT, or collectible. But I can say that don't expect a click to mint button. It's gonna be a little more fun to get these things. Cool. It sounds like, yeah, they're gonna be more than just an image. They're gonna I think it was Chain Lab thinking about pointing to this thing called the Metro, which is pretty cool. I think Jake, you minted one of these. Those are pretty cool, right? They shift, they change. I don't know if that's going to be exactly like this, but I would expect it to kind of have more ability to do other things than just be an image that is unchanged.
Yeah, it is pixel art. I know that the artist is Tusk, which was one of the Pondaware team members. He was one of the original boutique artists, probably the most popular boutique artist in the on-chain accessory world of Mooncats. And he said that he's put over 1 million pixels into this project so far. So I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a lot. So I'm pretty excited to see this, to see where it goes. Maybe it gives them a fresh start. Looking through their Twitter right now, it looks like there's actually like a lot of engagement. It's definitely more than their personal account.
Well, hopefully they don't do like the full bodies, because there's no bigger kiss of death right now than full body images. Like they got to have it has to be a PFP. At least it has to have the potential to be a PFP. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe they take everything that they've done with on-chain accessories and the random minting that they had done with Mooncats and the Condo Mini assemble thing, and I don't know, they piece it all together. I guess we'll see.
Free mint, PFP. You can do all the other stuff layered on top of it, or very, very, very cheap mint. Like that would be the strategy, man. And but I don't know, man. I wish them luck, man. They're good guys. I hope they succeed. But it just seems like they're always a little bit too early.
A little bit too early. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm going to follow along for the journey and we'll kind of see what happens there. But
I like that image of like the usual suspects. Like that was a really cool one of like, you know, a police lineup type of thing. It looks really cool.
So I wasn't here last week. I don't know if you guys covered this actually, but looking through, I put up the top sales of the week for Emblem Vault, and we actually have like a pretty wide variety of things that have sold. We had an FD card that sold for 39 WETH. We have some Bitcoin punks that are kind of back in the fray. We've had some Bitcoin apes that are back in there popping. We have the Stam punks, and there was an uncommon or uninscribed uncommon set. I don't know if you guys covered this at all.
Yeah, we didn't cover that, I don't think.
Tell us a little bit about this rare sat hunting. I'm getting, we've actually received a few DMs of other potential rare sat hunters who have found similar things and they've been wanting to vault these things. I saw Leonidas I'll put it up here, put out like a kind of a thread on like what this rare sat hunting is. But we could kind of end with this topic for today. Tell us what you know about it.
So, I mean, basically, when we had Casey on a Twitter Spaces back in September, this was his initial like thoughts behind ordinal theory. Was first and foremost tracking of sats, and if you track sats on a granular level, and by Casey's numbering scheme, you can figure out which are the first sats as part of a block that's mined, right? And so he gave varying rarities depending on where these sats, you know, are in these blocks. And so our friend Nullish has been actively trying to hunt down and find these rare sats, literally exchanging Bitcoin with exchanges, just sending in one Bitcoin, getting back one Bitcoin, and looking through those sats, and then sending that one in, and then receiving another Bitcoin back, and just scanning through all those sats using his software to basically pull out what would be called, you know, uncommon, rare, or I don't think he's found any epic stats yet, but, you know, finding these hyper rare sats. And then obviously he put one in Emblem Vault. It sold very, very quickly. I think he sold it for 2 ETH. And, you know, I think I put a tweet out. It was like the greatest ROI in the history of the world. It was like a 12 million% ROI on a sat that's worth, you know, 10/10ths of a penny or something like that. So, but it's, you know, it's just one of these really cool things that's possible with ordinals.
Yeah, I'm looking at the definitive guide that Leonidas put up. So the common says any set that is not the first sat of its block. Current supply 1.9 quadrillion. Total supply is 2.1 quadrillion, right? That's probably just every sat. Uncommon, the first sat of each block. Current supply is 745,855. So if you times that by 2 ETH, man, the market cap
I know, right?
of the uncommon uninscribed
I
set.
think we are what we are in is we're in very, very, very early days. And there are basically two guys in the world who are looking for these things, right? So the price discovery, there is no price discovery. And yeah, these are, when you get into these numbers, they're hyper ridiculously common. They're literally, you know, pebbles on the ground. So yeah, I would not encourage people to go aping into, you know, 2 ETH sats, if you would.
Yeah, so then there's 3 more. There's rare, the first sat of each difficulty adjustment period. Current supply is 369. Total supply will be 3,437. Epic, the first sat of each halving epoch. Current supply is 3. Total supply 32. And then legendary is the first sat of each cycle. I'm assuming this is what, right after a halving, or is that what epic is? It says current supply is 0, but the total supply is 5. I'm assuming current supply is just like what.
I'm not sure what an epoch is. Yeah. I don't know, or I don't know what the I don't know what each cycle is. Honestly, the Bitcoin network, I have no idea. I understand what epic is. You know, after each halving, the very first block mine, the very first sat of that block. That makes sense. I don't know. Maybe somebody in here, like Dogfather, do you know what the what a cycle is? Obviously, one hasn't even happened yet, so there are 5 more coming up. What does that mean, dude?
Honestly, not. But I would disagree that this is completely DJing. I mean, some of these things are like super rare. I mean, one of these epic ones, I mean, they're like 3 so far, and one, of course, is in Satoshi's wallet, so it's not circulating. I mean, that is like pure scarcity you know, as you can read it up on Wikipedia, right? I mean, it's just true. I mean, that's kind of insane. And so basically they are looking for that kind of stuff. And if they find an uncommon one, of course it's nice and they sell it or keep some or put some inscriptions on there. But I think they're all looking for this needle in the haystack, you know. I think that must be the ultimate kind of endorphin kick if you find something like that.
Yeah. And then the last one is Mythic, which is the first out of the Genesis block, which is obviously Satoshi's. And it's likely, I would say with pretty certain confidence, that nobody will ever get that, because if Satoshi's coins ever move, dude, we're going to zero immediately. So, at that point, it becomes effectively worthless. So I hope
Very
that
possible, my friend, very possible.
I hope that stays mythical or legendary, kind of forever. It is interesting though, right? 2 ETH for an uncommon, but the supply is 700,000, right? So you're saying like effectively the market cap is 1.5 million ETH or something like that. It's interesting getting in these like price discoveries, because somebody always has to kind of like bite the bullet when you're setting price discovery for NFTs or just even collecting non-fungible assets, even in the real world. Somebody always has to overpay in the beginning, or else there's no sort of price history. So I'm assuming, I think it was one of Knowlish's like hardcore community members, who's probably willing to go out there and just say like, hey, you know, I'm going to overpay this for.
Yeah, and it's also supporting Nilish, right? It's also like, hey, man, we appreciate the work you're doing, because he is doing important work. And if he can make money at it, guess what happens? Then we get more people coming in, more people hunting for sats. Price of sats comes down. And I do think we've talked about it a number of times. There are cool use cases for these, right? You find some of these uncommon ones, and it'd be awesome to, you know, inscribe stuff in them. Or, you know, we've already talked about Song of Day Man, you know, where he's hunting for one for each one of his old songs, you know, to put his songs on and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there are tons of great use cases here. So we definitely support Nullish and the good work he's doing, kind of opening up this entire field.
Interesting. Dogfather, what's going on?
Yeah, but I was just looking into the ordinal stock, because I never really got that cycle thing either. So I'm just reading out what it's saying here. So cycles are every 6 halvings, something magical happens. The halving and the difficult adjustment coincide. This is called the conjunction. And obviously this is only happening every 24 years. So this is extremely rare. And the first time this will happen will be in 2032. So we will have to wait. And I think the miner who is having that block, I think there will be some pretty cool action around that.
Yeah, they'll know about it by then, right? This is going to be well understood by then.
well, if we discuss like the next halving is, I think, about a year from sometime this month. I believe it's in April of next year. So we will get that special halving. I know there's a race right now for the inscription to 1 million. I think it's supposed to be like today or tomorrow or pretty close.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on that. Yeah,
I can only imagine what the spam is going to be for that for the first SAT after halving.
We talked with Nick from Luxor Mining, and he said basically, of course, there's going to be massive people all kind of going after it. He's really like, there's almost no way to. It's literally impossible to technically. You know, you just got to basically, everybody's going to be spamming the network trying to get that millionth. And just to be clear, because we talked to some ordinal guys as well, there's going to be a slight reorg of the numbers, as they've recognized some that have slipped through. I think there were maybe like 40 or 50 that aren't included in the current number of ordinals. And so when they reorg the numbers, so even if you landed the million today, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen today, even if you landed that million today, it's probably not going to be the million a week or two down the road. So just head on a swivel, guys, if you hear stuff about that, because they are going to do a reorg of numbers, as ones were not counted properly in the past.
Yeah, so it's basically a crapshoot.
Total crapshoot. Yep.
Oh man.
I mean, it is going to get completely bombed, like completely. Yeah.
I can't wait for the narrative to change, where it's like, instead of the Bitcoin output getting cut in half, it's like the amount of inscriptions that you can have. You're cutting half. You're cutting in half my NFTs on Bitcoin.
Oh, and we didn't even touch on the bad blocks and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot happening. the stamps breaking a couple miners a couple times this past week. It's incredible stuff, man. This is so, it's such an exciting time to be in Bitcoin again. It's just really, is there anything NFTs can't do? It's amazing.
Yeah, I think it was, is it the F2 pool or one of the largest pools? Stamps proved that they basically jerry rigged their setup or something like that.
Basically, I mean, look, this is high level as far as this is not the technical way, but basically they had created their own protocol to clear blocks and because basically it allowed them to skip a bunch of steps. And by skipping steps, you could do the blocks faster in theory. So you had a better chance of winning blocks. But by doing that, they were basically cutting off some of the data, and some of the data was these stamps, and basically had bad blocks. They had basically mined bad blocks, and to the tune of, supposedly it costs, each one is $300,000 or $400,000 each time they do it wrong. And you do it once, and you figure, I mean, this was the kind of discussions that happen in these mining pools, dude, this is a huge L, right? And so all the engineers get together and how do we fix this? But then to do it again 4 days later, oh my God, sure, some heads rolled. Somebody got fired. That's a huge, huge, huge. It's okay. It happens once. Oh my God, we got to reorganize, fix our infrastructure, fix our software, whatever. But for it to happen a second time, ooh, I would not, people were saying, I would not want to be on that Slack chain in that office, right? That's
yeah, from what I know, I think the margins for Bitcoin mining is actually quite low.
Totally,
because it's highly dependent on what the energy cost is of wherever the jurisdiction that you're in is.
Hyper competitive free market capitalism, maybe. yeah. I mean, so you see why they did it, right? Because it's important that you win blocks. But boy, when they made that first mistake that they didn't correct, to not allow it to happen a second time, I'm sure heads rolled, man. Sure of it.
Cut them out, dude. The stamps are breaking everything, right?
I love it. Dude, this makes Bitcoin stronger, man. Period. Full stop. It's awesome.
I saw, so maybe you can answer this. I re-listened to the conversation that you guys had with Mike and Joe, and there's something that stamps, they're saying, may encourage Utrexo? What is that?
UTRXO. Yeah.
What is that?
Utrexo. So basically what that is it's not exactly pruning of the output data, but it basically packages it in a way to make it lighter. And so in theory, could basically prune, new stamps. So in the same way that, in theory, you could prune the witness data, theoretically you can, but are you able to issue new blocks if you don't have the old data? So it's in theory right now. In practice is something totally different. This would be the way that you could, in theory, prune stamps from the chain, but it certainly doesn't seem likely. In the dev chats I'm in, there's vigorous debate as to whether or not this can even really happen. So it's definitely not set in stone that this is definitely going to happen. No way. It's there's vigorous debate with very experienced devs as to whether or not it's even possible.
It's not something I want to be a part of. That's way above my pay.
I just want to talk about JPEGs, man.
Isn't it beautiful? I was actually talking with this. I did two recent podcasts with Max Osiris, who's kind of an OG artist, and then my next episode next week's with Dan Anderson, who created Bitcoin. And we were talking about how society, at least maybe just because we're in this echo bubble, it's kind of moving away from this idea of fungibility as the primary transfer of value, and it's moving to non-fungible items. Also, not even just in NFTs, but the rise of sneaker flipping and flipping tickets and flipping, right? The Gary V flipping yard sales is back, and Pokemon cards, and it's kind of having this transition, and you see it being heavily emphasized in the NFT or in the crypto space, where there's not a lot of activity happens, and then all of a sudden you introduce NFTs to a blockchain, and it just reinvigorates that blockchain and the activity that's been happening. And I think Bitcoin is kind of the biggest example of that. I mean, Ethereum has its own ecosystem, right? Because there's all these different aspects, but Bitcoin was, I think the miner fee was 1 or 2 sats per byte for years. Now I checked right before this, it was 25. It's
incredible. Incredible. Yeah, it gets into, and I wish Mafika was here to talk about hype cycles and stuff like that. But these interest where you get this attention rush into something, which means then the money rushes in, which means then the talent rushes in after the money. We've seen it again and again. And crypto, it's just like at hyper speed, and because it's the beautiful merging of technology and money and everything else. And we've seen it here just so many times, just since 2021, so many different times. And of course, it's amazing that it's happening on Bitcoin because we all love Bitcoin at the core. And so to see this kind of movement into the space, only thing I can kind of equate it to is like CryptoKitties back in 2017 on Ethereum, right? It's just like CryptoKitties happened. All the devs were like, holy cow, we can make money. And they moved in. And of course, we saw tons of projects fail in 2018. Most stuff failed. But what that did was set us all up for the 2021 explosion in NFTs. And I think the exact same thing's happening on ordinals right now. You get this rush of people in. All this infrastructure is going to get built. A heck of a lot of it's going to fail. But then what's going to be the next thing after that explodes? We're all guessing. We can all guess at that.
And you can kind of see this kind of leveling out in ordinal specifically. I mean, even through the Emblem sales, where it's not just all Bitcoin punks or it's not all just low inscriptions. It's really just getting spread across. And I'm interested to see what happens next, whether it's some sort of gamification. I know they're experimenting with different types of files. You have BRC20, which I don't know, some people hate, some people love. It's definitely been speeding up the inscription numbers, but when BRC20 stamps, right? It's just like go to Counterparty. Gotta love it. It's probably end it here. I do want to mention that next week, I think I'm actually on stage when the show's about to happen.
Nice.
So maybe we'll try to do some sort of like live tune in. We're actually doing a historical NFT panel. It's me, Sean Leary, XAO. I don't know what his actual name is. That's this Crypto Schools guy. And then there's a woman on stage who apparently created a 500-page encyclopedia about the history of NFTs. I don't know. I'm waiting for her to show me that.
Awesome. Wow.
So yeah, dude, there's a lot of history buffs out there that I'm not even aware of. So that'll be a cool 30-minute panel Friday at NFT NYC. If you're there, come support your fellow historical nerds. And yeah, maybe I'll try to tune in a little bit live.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. If you're right, there's a lot of events out there. I'll be tweeting. If you're out there, hit me up. We'll grab some drinks. I'm staying down there for 7 days just to make enough time to.
Damn, living the dream, baby.
7 days, dude. Yeah, I got there, getting there early, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. Scheduled out. But if anybody else on stage would like any final words, or we can close this out for episode 12, V12, right? Where we're soon, Adam, we're gonna have to start a second show at some point a week. Once we get these curated rolling, we're gonna have to do a second show just for like the amount of curated collections that are rolling out, just to explain what's going on. So be on the lookout for that here in the future.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.